You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is determined entirely by what you feel yourself to be. This is the great secret that has been hidden in plain sight since the beginning of time, and tonight I am going to give it to you without reservation. The outer world that you see with your physical eyes is nothing more than a mirror. It is a faithful servant that reflects back the commands of its master. But those commands are not spoken words. They are not written petitions. They are not even conscious thoughts most of the time. Those commands are feelings. What you feel yourself to be, you are. And you are given that which you are. Now, consider this carefully. The wealthy man is not wealthy because he has money. He has money because he is wealthy in consciousness. The poor man is not poor because he lacks money. He lacks money because he is poor in consciousness. The man who wins the lottery did not win because he was lucky. He won because, whether he knew it or not, he had assumed the state of consciousness of the winner. He had become, in feeling, that which he desired to be. And here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. You can do this consciously. You can deliberately assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You can occupy the state of being wealthy, of being fortunate, of being the recipient of unexpected abundance. And when you do this correctly, when you feel it as natural and real, the outer world has no choice but to conform. It must rearrange itself to match the inner command. By the end of this teaching, you will possess the key to that state. You will know exactly how to open the door that leads to lottery money, to unexpected windfalls, to financial freedom that seems to come from nowhere but actually comes from the deepest place within you. This is not wishful thinking. This is not positive affirmation. This is law, and the law works for anyone who applies it correctly. Let me tell you what you are going to gain from our time together tonight. First, you are going to understand why desire alone actually repels wealth. This may surprise you, but wanting money pushes money away. The very act of wanting implies that you do not have, and what you feel you do not have, you cannot receive. Your subconscious mind does not respond to desire, it responds to assumption. It responds to the feeling that something already is so. When you want money, you affirm to your deeper mind that you are without it. When you feel wealthy, you command that deeper mind to externalize wealth. Second, you are going to learn the exact inner state that opens the door. It is not excitement, it is not desperation, it is not visualization as most people understand it, which is merely looking at mental pictures like watching a movie. The door is opened by naturalness. The door is opened by the feeling that it would be completely natural for you to receive this money. The time it takes for any assumption to become fact in your outer world is directly proportionate to how natural that assumption feels to you. If it feels strange, foreign, unlikely, impossible, then you have not truly assumed the state. But if it feels natural, as though it could easily be so, as though it already is so, then it must externalize. Third, you are going to learn how to enter what I call the state akin to sleep. This is the drowsy condition just before you drift off at night. In this state, the doorway to your subconscious mind swings wide open. Your last waking concept of yourself is sealed into that deeper mind, and from there it must project itself outward into your circumstances. This is the most powerful moment of your entire day, and most people waste it by falling asleep in worry, in lack, in resentment. Tonight you will learn to use it consciously for your good. Fourth, you are going to receive specific inner scenes that imply fulfillment, not vague positive thinking, but the actual crafting of a single vivid scene that implies the wealth is already received. You will learn to hear congratulations, to feel the check in your hands, to experience the relief of debts paid. I will give you precise instruction on how to construct this scene and how to make it real to your senses. And fifth, you are going to understand why the question of how is not your concern. The ways and means by which your wish will be fulfilled belong entirely to your subconscious mind. It is infinitely wise and infinitely resourceful. It will devise the means best suited to realize your assumption. Your only task, your only responsibility, is to occupy the end. You must live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let the bridge of incidents build itself. Now, I know some of you have tried visualization before and nothing happened. I understand. But let me tell you why that was so. You were thinking of the wish, not from it. You were looking at pictures in your mind as though you were watching a movie on a screen, but you were not in the movie. You were not feeling the reality of it. There is a vast difference between seeing a picture of yourself holding a check and actually feeling yourself holding that check, feeling the paper between your fingers, feeling the weight of the moment, feeling the naturalness of it being yours. Some of you are thinking right now that you cannot ignore your current lack. You are looking at your bank account, at your bills, at your circumstances, and you are saying to yourself that you cannot pretend these things do not exist. But I am not asking you to pretend anything. I am not asking you to deny reality. I am asking you to occupy a new state of consciousness. What you occupy within, you must express without. The outer world is effect, not cause. Consciousness is the only cause, and your feeling is the evidence of your consciousness. Change your feeling, and you change your world. Some of you may be thinking that this is just luck, that some people win and some people do not, and that is simply the way of things. But I tell you, there is no such thing as chance. There is no such thing as accident. There is only consciousness. The man who wins has, knowingly or unknowingly, assumed the state of the winner. He has felt himself to be fortunate. He has lived in the expectation of good, and the subconscious mind, which is impersonal and no respecter of persons, has externalized that state. You can do this consciously. You can assume the state deliberately. And when you do, the same law that operated for him will operate for you. And some of you may be feeling guilty right now about wanting money. You may have been taught that desire for wealth is unspiritual, that poverty is somehow virtuous, that good people do not care about such things. But I say to you that money is not evil, poverty is not virtue. Your Father has given you all things. The kingdom is yours by inheritance. Your task is simply to claim what is already yours. There is nothing unspiritual about living in abundance. There is nothing holy about struggling and suffering when you have the power within you to live differently. Let me establish something very clearly. These principles I am sharing with you tonight are not theories I invented. They are not ideas I borrowed from popular psychology. They have been tested by hundreds of men and women who wrote to me with their testimonies. A man won $84,000 at a racetrack using exactly what I am about to teach you. A woman received monthly checks for the rest of her natural life. A daughter received $3,000 within days of beginning the practice. These are not fairy tales. These are documented facts. The law operates for anyone who applies it correctly. Unlike the surface-level attraction teachings you may have encountered elsewhere, what I am giving you tonight goes to the root. This is the law as I received it from my teacher, Abdullah, as I tested it in my own life, as it is encoded in the scriptures when rightly understood. The Bible is not history. The Bible is psychology. When scripture says, according to your faith be it unto you, it means according to your feeling. Faith is not belief in something you hope might happen. Faith is the feeling that it already has happened. This teaching goes to the foundation. I know the weight of financial worry. I know what it is to look at an empty bank account and wonder how the next day shall be met. I stood in New York City once without a nickel in my pocket, longing to spend winter in Barbados with my family. I had no money and no visible means of obtaining any. But I also know the feeling of having walked out of that prison. I did not escape by struggling with the bars. I escaped by waking up in a new cell, a golden chamber I had built in imagination. That imaginal chamber became my outer world, and what worked for me will work for you. Let me tell you exactly what happened that winter in New York. It was the fall of 1933, and I was broke in the truest sense of the word. I literally did not have a nickel, but I wanted desperately to go to Barbados to be with my family for the holidays. So I went to my teacher Abdullah with my problem. Abdullah was a remarkable man. He was an Ethiopian rabbi who had studied the deeper mysteries of Scripture for decades. When I came to him with my complaint, he did not offer sympathy. He did not tell me he was sorry for my situation. He asked me one simple question. He said, "What do you want?" I told him I wanted to spend the winter in Barbados, but I was broke. I had no money for a ticket. I had no prospects for getting any. Abdullah looked at me with those penetrating eyes of his and said something that changed my life forever. He said, "If you will imagine yourself to be in Barbados, thinking and viewing the world from that state of consciousness instead of thinking of Barbados, you will spend the winter there. You must not concern yourself with the ways and means of getting there, for the state of consciousness of already being in Barbados, if occupied by your imagination, will devise the means best suited to realize itself." Now, pay very close attention to what he said. He did not tell me to think about Barbados. He told me to think from Barbados. There is a vast difference between the two. When you think about something, you are here and it is there. There is a distance between you and the thing desired. But when you think from something, you are already there. You are viewing the world from the state of the wish fulfilled. You are not longing for it anymore because you already have it. Abdullah then told me that I must fall asleep at night imagining myself in my father's house in Barbados. I must feel the tropical air. I must see the familiar rooms. I must hear the sounds of my family. I must fall asleep in that state, viewing the world from that location rather than from my small apartment in New York. I confess to you that doubt rose within me. How could simply imagining solve the very real and practical problem of having no money for a steamship ticket? But I had nothing to lose. My situation could not get any worse. So that night, and for many nights thereafter, I lay down in my bed in New York City, closed my eyes, and imagined myself in my father's house in Barbados. I did not see myself there from the outside, as though watching a character in a film. I was there, looking out through my own eyes. I felt the warmth of the Caribbean evening. I heard the voices of my brothers and sisters. I felt the sheets of my old bed beneath me. I fell asleep in Barbados, even though my physical body remained in New York. Within a month, I received a letter from my brother. He wrote that he had a strong desire to have the family together for Christmas and enclosed a steamship ticket for me to come to Barbados. I sailed 2 days after I received that letter and spent a wonderful winter with my family. Now, I want you to understand what actually happened here. I did not create my brother's desire to send for me. That desire was already there as a possibility. What my imagination did was to select that possibility out of all the infinite possibilities and make it the reality that unfolded. The state of consciousness I occupied drew to me the means of fulfillment. I did not have to figure out the how. I only had to assume the end. This experience taught me something I have never forgotten. Man can be anything he pleases if he will make the conception habitual and think from the end rather than about it. My good and my evil have no dependency except from myself. It depends entirely on the state from which I view the world, how things present themselves to me. Let me tell you another story, one that speaks directly to the question of lottery money. A man came to one of my lectures in Los Angeles. He was broke by his own admission. He had read my book, Awakened Imagination, but he confessed that he had done nothing with the ideas. He had not applied them to his financial situation. That night, he heard another man in the audience share a success story. This second man had practiced revision and gone from earning $25 a week to earning the salary of the President of the United States within 2 years. The broke man was thunderstruck. He realized that he had been given the key but had never used it. He decided that night that he would test the law himself. He would imagine himself winning the 5 to 10 pool at the Caliente racetrack in Mexico. This is a betting pool where you attempt to pick the winners of 6 consecutive races. It is extremely difficult, and the odds are greatly against you. But odds mean nothing to imagination. Here is exactly what this man did. Every night for 3 weeks, he lay down and entered the drowsy state just before sleep. In his imagination, he stood at the track, sorting through his betting tickets. He felt the tickets in his hands. As he sorted them, he felt the thrill of realization that each one was a winner. He had picked all 6 races correctly. He felt goosebumps rise on his skin. That physical sensation of excitement, of reality, was very important. It meant the feeling had penetrated deep enough to be real to his nervous system. Then he saw the cashier at the window. In his imagination, he watched the cashier count out a large sum of money. He felt himself take that money and tuck it beneath his shirt. He felt the bulk of it against his body. He enacted this scene over and over, night after night, until he fell asleep within the action. After 3 weeks of this nightly practice, he traveled physically to the Caliente racetrack. And on that day, every single detail of his imaginative drama was realized in the outer world. The only change from his inner scene was that the cashier handed him a check rather than currency. The amount was $84,000. Now, I want you to think about this. This man did not know which horses would win. He did not study racing forms or analyze jockeys or calculate odds. He simply assumed the end. He assumed that he had won. He felt the reality of it. And his subconscious mind, which has access to knowledge far beyond the conscious mind, arranged all the details to fulfill his assumption. But wait, there is more to this story. After I shared this account in a subsequent lecture, another man in the audience approached me. He asked if I thought it possible for him to duplicate this success. I told him that he must decide for himself the circumstances of his imaginal scene, but whatever scene he chose, he must make it natural to himself and feel the end with all the conviction he could muster. He must not labor over how it would happen. He must simply live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. 1 month later, this second man came back to show me a check. He had won $16,000 in the same 5 to 10 pool at the same Caliente racetrack. He had duplicated the first man's success exactly. But this second man wanted to prove to himself that this was not mere coincidence. He wanted to demonstrate that his imaginal acts were actually producing these results. So he decided to test the law again. This time, he did not imagine a single win. He imagined bank balances. He imagined walking into 2 different banks and asking to see his statements. In one bank, he saw a balance of $10,000. In the other, he saw $15,000. Then he imagined dividing his racing winnings into 12 piles on his desk, counting out the money with his own hands. He practiced this compound imaginal scene every morning, every afternoon, and every night for less than 1 month. Then he returned to Caliente. As he filled out his betting tickets, something strange happened. Without knowing why, he duplicated 6 tickets exactly. And on 2 of those duplicate tickets, he made what appeared to be a mistake. He marked the same horse twice in the 10th race. When the races were run, that apparent mistake turned out to be the winning selection. He held 2 winning tickets, each paying over $16,000. He also had 6 consolation tickets. His total winnings came to $36,788. His imaginary accounting had totaled $36,000, $533. The amounts were almost identical. But here is what fascinates me most about this story. At the end of the ninth race, which was one of the major winners, the trainer of that horse tried to scratch it from the race. He did not want the horse to run, but the stewards denied the trainer's request. The horse ran and won. Do you understand what this means? The man's imaginal act reached out and influenced events entirely beyond his conscious knowledge or control. The steward's refusal to allow the scratch was an event that served the imaginal drama. His so-called mistake in duplicating a ticket was not a mistake at all. It was his subconscious mind guiding his hand to ensure the fulfillment of what he had assumed. The law does not miss. It cannot miss. When you assume a state and persist in it until it feels natural, all things conspire to bring that state to pass. Events that seem accidental are actually purposeful. Coincidences are actually correspondences. Everything moves toward the fulfillment of your assumption. Now let me tell you a different kind of story. One about a woman who was not trying to win any contest. She was simply trying to survive. This woman was 55 years old. She was out of work with no family to support her. She needed everything. She needed a car because hers was falling apart. She needed proper clothes to seek employment. She was behind on her rent. Her bank account was nearly empty. And she knew that at her age, finding decent work would be extremely difficult. This woman had been attending my lectures for almost a year. Her desperation forced her to put my teachings to the test. She had nothing to lose. So she began by trying to imagine everything she needed. She visualized the car. She visualized the clothes. She visualized the apartment. She visualized the job. But the list was so long, and she needed everything so urgently, that by the time she finished imagining all these things, she was exhausted and her nerves were frayed. She could not sleep. Then she heard me tell a story about a man who had captured a single feeling rather than imagining specific things. The feeling was simply, "Isn't it wonderful?" This man had used these words, "Isn't it wonderful?" to evoke the feeling of something marvelous happening without specifying exactly what that something was. This woman decided to try this simpler approach. Instead of imagining every item she needed, she simply captured the feeling that something wonderful was happening to her right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. She would say to herself as she drifted off to sleep, "Isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me now." And she would feel the way she would expect to feel if something wonderful really were occurring. She repeated this imaginary action every night for 2 months. She did not specify what the wonderful thing would be. She simply occupied the feeling of wonderful fortune. Then one day in early October, she ran into an acquaintance she had not seen in months. This man mentioned that he was about to take a trip to New York City. She had lived in New York many years before, and they chatted briefly about the city before parting ways. She thought nothing of it and forgot the encounter entirely. 1 month later, to the day, this man appeared at her apartment door. He handed her a certified check with her name on it for $2,500. She was so shocked she could barely speak. When she asked what this was about, he told her a remarkable story. During his trip to New York, he had run into an old friend of hers, a man she had not seen or heard from in more than 25 years. This old friend, it turned out, had become extremely wealthy in the intervening years. During their conversation, they spoke of this woman, and for reasons she would never fully understand, this wealthy man from her distant past decided to share a portion of his fortune with her. But the story does not end there. For the next 2 years, she received monthly checks from this man's attorney. The amounts were so generous that they covered all her living expenses and left plenty over for a new car, lovely clothes, and a spacious apartment. She no longer needed to work, and then, just recently, she received a letter with legal papers to sign. These papers guaranteed the continuation of that monthly income for the rest of her natural life. This woman did not attract what she wanted, she attracted what she was, and she had become, in feeling, the recipient of wonderful fortune. She did not know how it would come. She did not imagine a specific source. She simply felt the feeling of, "Isn't it wonderful?" And the subconscious mind, with its infinite wisdom, selected the perfect means of fulfillment. I want to tell you one more story before we move into the deeper teaching. This one involves a mother and a daughter, and it shows how imaginal activity can work through multiple people simultaneously. This mother traveled from the East Coast to visit her daughter in San Francisco. When she arrived, she found her daughter in deep distress. The young woman was in financial trouble and needed $3,000 immediately. The mother had some resources, but not that kind of cash readily available. Besides, she knew her proud daughter would never accept a direct handout. Instead of offering money, the mother offered something else. She said, "Let me help you in my way." By that she meant imagination. She had been practicing these principles for years and had seen them work many times. The mother and daughter sat down together and decided on an imaginal scene they could both practice. They imagined money coming to the daughter from everywhere. They felt money flooding toward her from every corner, every direction, until she was surrounded by a sea of money. But the important thing, the essential thing, is that they did this with a feeling of joy. They felt happiness for everyone involved. They had no thought of taking from anyone. They simply felt abundance flowing. The daughter's mood transformed almost immediately. Though there was no evidence yet of any money coming, she became the happy, confident person she naturally was. She had assumed the state of one to whom money flows. The mother left San Francisco and flew back to her home in the East. When she arrived, she called her own mother, a lovely lady of 91 years, who insisted that she come visit immediately. It could not wait even a day. So the woman went. When she arrived, her elderly mother handed her a check for $3,000 made out to the granddaughter in San Francisco. Before the woman could speak, her mother handed her 3 more checks totaling $1,500 made out to the granddaughter's children, and then another check for $3,000 made out to the woman herself. The grandmother's explanation was simple. She had suddenly decided the day before to give what she had in cash to those she loved while she was still alive to see their happiness in receiving it. Now, I ask you, was this coincidence? Did this 91-year-old woman just happen to decide to give away her money on the very same day that her great-granddaughter began feeling money flooding toward her? No. It was not coincidence. The imaginal act of the daughter, supported by the mother, reached out and stirred something in the grandmother's heart. The means of fulfillment was drawn from an unexpected source, but it matched the imaginal activity perfectly. The mood of the wish fulfilled is like a high tide that lifts us off the sandbar where we usually lie stranded. When you change your mood, when you assume the feeling of your wish being already fulfilled, you set in motion forces that rearrange the entire world around you. These stories I have shared are not unique. They are representative of thousands of similar experiences. The law works the same way for everyone. And now I want to explain to you exactly why it works and how you can apply it deliberately to open the door to lottery money or any other form of abundance you desire. The first principle you must understand is this: you are what you feel yourself to be. Scripture says, "According to your faith be it unto you." But faith here does not mean belief in something outside yourself. Faith means feeling. What you feel to be true about yourself is what you will experience in your outer world. You never attract what you want, you attract what you are. This is crucial to understand. Wanting implies lacking. When you want something, you are confessing to your subconscious mind that you do not have it. And your subconscious mind, which is completely impersonal and non-selective, accepts that confession and externalizes it. It keeps you in the state of wanting, which is the state of not having. But when you feel yourself to already be what you desire to be, when you feel wealthy rather than wanting wealth, when you feel fortunate rather than hoping for fortune, then your subconscious mind accepts that feeling and externalizes it. It brings into your outer world the conditions that match your inner state. The subconscious does not evaluate whether your feeling is good or bad, true or false in the world's terms. It simply accepts whatever you feel to be true and works to bring it to pass. Your feelings create the pattern from which your world is fashioned. A change of feeling is a change of destiny. Now, let me take this deeper. The Bible reveals that the name of God is I am. When Moses asked God what name he should tell the people, God said, I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you. This is not merely a name. It is a revelation of the nature of reality itself. I am is your awareness. It is your consciousness. It is the sense of being that remains even when you forget your name, your location, your circumstances. You cannot forget that you are. This I am is God, the creator of all things. When you say I am wealthy, you are touching God with that quality. You are impressing upon your own deep consciousness the state of wealth. And consciousness, which is God, must externalize whatever is impressed upon it. It must give birth to whatever state you assume. This is why Scripture says that man is made in the image of God. Your awareness images forth, gives shape to whatever you feel yourself to be. When you say, I am poor, you crucify God on the cross of poverty. You nail your own consciousness to that state, and poverty must appear in your outer world. But when you say, I am wealthy, when you feel wealthy, you resurrect God into a new form. You give birth to abundance. There is no God outside yourself to petition. There is no external deity you must please or appease. The God who creates your world is your own wonderful human imagination. When you imagine and feel a state, you are using the creative power of God, and that power must bring forth according to its nature. Some will argue that circumstances are fixed, that the facts of life are stubborn things, that you cannot simply ignore reality. But I say to you that circumstances are only the fruit of consciousness. They are effects, not causes. If you dislike the fruit, you do not argue with the fruit or try to change the fruit. You change the root. And the root of all circumstances is your own consciousness, your own feeling of what is real and true. Others will say that money is material and therefore unspiritual, but all things are made by imagination. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and all things were made by Him. The Word is imagination. The Word is the inner speech and feeling that creates all things. There is nothing unclean in itself. There is nothing unspiritual in living well, in having more than enough, in being free from the anxiety of lack. You stand always at the center of your web of circumstances. You are the spider who spun this web, whether you remember doing so or not. As you change within, as you assume a new state and feel it to be real, your outer web must change to match it. You are not the victim of fate. You are not the plaything of chance. You are the operant power, and the power operates through feeling. This brings me to the second great principle. The secret of feeling is not emotion as you usually understand it. Feeling, in the sense I use the word, is not excitement or enthusiasm or emotional turbulence. Feeling is the ascent of the subconscious to the truth of what is declared to be true. It is the sense of reality. It is acceptance that something is so. The question to ask yourself is not, do I want this? Of course you want it. The question to ask is, how would I feel if it were true right now? The feeling that rises in response to that question, that quiet sense of satisfaction, of relief, of it being done, is the feeling you must capture and occupy. When you feel wealthy in this sense, you do not jump up and down with excitement. That is emotion, not feeling. When you feel wealthy, you rest in a quiet consciousness of security. There is no desperation. There is no anxiety. There is simply the calm knowing that you have more than enough. When you feel that you have won the lottery, you do not scream with anticipation about what might happen. You settle into the reality of what has happened. You feel it as a present fact, not a future hope. Many people confuse this. They think that generating emotion is the key, so they try to work themselves into a frenzy of excitement about their desire. But frenzy implies that the thing is not yet real. Excitement about a future event confesses that the event is still in the future. The feeling that creates is the feeling of naturalness, of it being normal and real, of it simply being so. The time it takes for any assumption to become fact in your outer world is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling. If you assume that you are wealthy, but it feels strange, foreign, unlikely, impossible, then you have not really assumed the state. The assumption has not been accepted by your subconscious. But if you assume wealth and it feels natural, as though it could easily be so, as though it already is so, then it will externalize quickly. This is why many people fail despite their efforts at visualization and affirmation. They go through the motions, but the feeling of naturalness is missing. Something within them says, "This is not really me, this is not really true, this is just a game I am playing." And that doubt, that reservation, is communicated to the subconscious mind, which then fails to externalize the desire. Scripture says, "When you pray, believe that you have received, and you shall receive." Notice the tense of the verb. Believe that you have received, not that you will receive, not that you might receive, that you have already received. The prayer that works is the assumption that the thing is already accomplished. It is not asking for something in the future. It is claiming something in the eternal now. God operates in the eternal present. There is no future to God. All things exist now in the infinite possibilities of consciousness. When you assume a state, you are selecting from those infinite possibilities the one you wish to experience. And when you feel it as natural and real, you draw it from the realm of possibility into the realm of manifestation. Now, let me speak about the third principle, which is the doorway through which all this operates. I call it the state akin to sleep. Sleep occupies 1/3 of your life on earth. It is the natural door into the subconscious mind. Every night, as you drift from waking consciousness into sleep, you pass through a threshold. In that threshold state, you are neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Your body is relaxed, your senses are withdrawn from the outer world, but your mind is still capable of direction. This is the state akin to sleep, and it is the most powerful moment of your entire day. The conscious 2/3 of your life is measured by the degree of attention you give to sleep, what you feel yourself to be as you enter this drowsy state, what you assume about yourself in these moments before sleep takes you, will be sealed into your subconscious mind, and your entire slumber will be dominated by that last waking concept of self. From that point, whatever you have impressed upon the subconscious must work its way out into your waking circumstances. This is why I urge you to go to sleep each night in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Do not let sleep take you while you are worried about bills. Do not let sleep take you while you are feeling the weight of lack. Do not let sleep take you while you are angry or resentful or fearful. These feelings, impressed upon the subconscious in the doorway of sleep, must externalize. They will create the very conditions you are worrying about. Instead, let sleep take you while you are feeling the satisfaction of your wish fulfilled. Let sleep take you while you are rich in consciousness. Let sleep take you while you are at peace, knowing that your desire is already accomplished. These feelings, sealed into the subconscious, must also externalize. They will create the conditions of abundance and fulfillment. The prophet Job said, "In a dream, In a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction. God speaks to man in sleep. The instructions of the day are sealed in the moments of slumber. Your imagination, working in the drowsy state, is the voice of God planting seeds in fertile ground. To enter this state deliberately, you must first prepare for sleep genuinely. This is not a technique you can practice in the middle of the afternoon when you are fully alert. It requires the natural tiredness that comes at the end of the day. Lie down in your bed as you would if you were going to sleep. Let your body relax completely. Then induce what I call physical immobility. Let your body become heavy, as though you could not move even if you wanted to. You are not paralyzed, but you feel as though you are sinking into the mattress, too relaxed to stir. In this state, your attention is freed from the body and can be directed inward. Now ask yourself the key question. How would I feel if my wish were realized? If your wish is lottery money, ask, how would I feel if I had already won? Do not answer this question intellectually, with words and concepts. Feel the answer in your body. Let the feeling rise up within you. Then construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of your wish. This is crucial. You must not imagine the wish being fulfilled in the future. You must imagine a scene that could only happen after the wish has been fulfilled. What would you be doing after you won the lottery? What would you be saying? What would you be hearing from others? Choose a single, brief scene that implies the money is already yours. Perhaps you see yourself holding the check. Perhaps you are telling a loved one the good news. Perhaps you are in a bank, depositing the funds. Perhaps you are simply sitting in peace, feeling the relief of all debts paid and all needs met. Choose the scene that feels most natural to you. Choose the scene that carries the greatest sense of reality. Now, and this is essential, enter the scene as a participant, not as an observer. Do not watch yourself from the outside, as though you were seeing a character in a movie. Be in the scene, looking out through your own eyes. Feel your hands. Feel your body. Hear the sounds around you with your own ears. Make it vivid with all your senses. Then repeat this scene over and over, feeling its reality each time until you fall asleep within the action. Let the scene fade naturally as sleep takes you. Do not force yourself to stay awake. The purpose is to fall asleep while feeling the wish fulfilled. In that moment, the feeling is sealed into your subconscious, and the work is done. Do this every night. Be persistent. Do not give up after 3 nights because nothing has happened yet. The man who won $84,000 practiced his scene for 3 weeks before he went to the track. The woman who received lifetime income practiced her feeling for 2 months. Persistence is essential. The assumption must be made habitual before it feels natural, and only when it feels natural will it externalize. The 4th principle I want to teach you concerns inner speech. Your inner talking is perpetually written all around you in happenings. What you say to yourself, the conversations you carry on inside your own mind, these are the seeds of your future. Inner speech is the creative command. Most people are completely unaware of their inner talking. They let it run on automatic, replaying old tapes of worry, doubt, limitation, and lack. But this inner speech is not neutral. It is creative. Whatever you say inwardly, whatever you consent to as true within yourself, must externalize in your circumstances. Observe your inner talking about money. What are you saying to yourself throughout the day? When you see something you would like to buy, what do you tell yourself? Do you say, I cannot afford this? Do you say, money never stays with me? Do you say, I will never get ahead? These statements are creative. They are impressing lack upon your subconscious mind, and lack must appear in your life. But you can change your inner speech. When you catch yourself saying, I cannot afford this, stop and revise it. Say instead, I can easily afford this. Say, Money flows to me freely. Say, I always have more than enough. At first, this will feel like a lie. It will feel unnatural. But remember what I taught you earlier. The time it takes for an assumption to become fact is proportionate to its naturalness. The more you practice the new inner speech, the more natural it becomes. And when it becomes natural, it must externalize. I am not asking you to deny the facts. I am asking you to plant new seeds. The facts of today are the harvest of yesterday's inner speech. If you want a different harvest tomorrow, you must plant different seeds today. And the seeds are the words you speak within yourself. Construct sentences that imply the fulfillment of your desire and repeat them inwardly until you feel them to be true. For wealth, you might say, isn't it wonderful to have more than enough? For lottery money, you might say, I still cannot believe I actually won. For general abundance, you might say, everything I touch prospers. Say these things within yourself. Say them over and over. Say them until you feel affected by them, until they begin to seem real. Let them be the last thing on your mental tongue as you drift to sleep. Your inner speech is the word that creates your world. Scripture says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word is not spoken language. The Word is inner speech, the word of imagination. Your word creates your world. Speech is the image of mind, and mind is the image of God. Now, let me explain the fifth principle, which is the naturalness principle. This is why many people fail, even when they practice the techniques faithfully. I said earlier that the time it takes for an assumption to become fact is directly proportionate to the naturalness of the feeling. If you assume that you have won the lottery, but it feels completely unbelievable, foreign, impossible for someone like you, then you have not truly assumed the state. Your subconscious has not accepted it. And without acceptance, there can be no externalization. This is the great secret that most teachings miss. It is not enough to visualize. It is not enough to affirm. It is not enough to go through the motions of the technique. The feeling must be natural. You must be able to rest in it without strain, without doubt, without the sense that you are pretending something that is not true. How do you make something feel natural when it seems impossible? The answer is one word: imagination. Through persistent imagination, through the frequent habitual occupancy of the state, what once felt foreign becomes familiar. What once felt impossible becomes possible. What once felt unnatural becomes natural. Think of it this way. If you were chained to a heavy bench, you could not physically run. It would not feel natural to you to run because your circumstances forbid it. But in imagination, you can run freely. You can feel the wind in your face, the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your breathing, and in that moment of imagining, you forget the chains. Running becomes natural to your imagination, even though it is impossible to your body. The same applies to wealth. You may be chained to poverty by your circumstances. It may seem impossible that you could ever have great wealth, but in imagination, you can occupy the mansion. You can feel the security of unlimited funds. You can taste the freedom of all debts paid. And if you do this often enough, if you make it habitual, the feeling becomes natural. And when the feeling is natural, the chains fall away. The outer circumstances change to match the inner state. Fancy assembles. Continuous imagination fuses. When you first imagine something, it is fancy, a passing thought. But when you imagine it continuously, when you return to it again and again, it fuses with your consciousness. It becomes part of who you are. And when it becomes part of who you are, it must express in your world. This is why I emphasize persistence. Do not practice the feeling once and expect results. Practice it every night. Return to it throughout the day. Let it become so familiar that it is no longer an effort. Let it become your natural state. Then watch the outer world conform. Scripture speaks of dying in your sins. This phrase terrifies people because they think it refers to moral failure and divine punishment. But the word sin simply means to miss the mark. To die in your sins means to fail to transcend from your present state to the state you desire. It means to remain stuck where you are because you never made the new state natural. Righteousness, then, is not moral perfection. Righteousness is the consciousness of already being what you want to be. The righteous man is the man who feels himself to be what he desires. He is right with his desire. He occupies the state. And because he occupies it, it must externalize. Be righteous, occupy the state of the wish fulfilled, make it so natural that you rest in it without effort, and you shall be saved from missing the mark. You shall attain your desire. Now that you understand these principles, let me give you the exact practices you can apply tonight and every night going forward. These are not theories. These are methods that have been tested by countless men and women and proven effective. The first practice is the nightly session in the state akin to sleep. This is your primary tool for opening the door to lottery money or any other form of abundance. Here is exactly what you do. At the end of the day, when you are genuinely tired and ready for sleep, lie down in your bed. Make yourself comfortable. Let your body relax completely, sinking into the mattress. Feel your muscles releasing, your breathing slowing, your mind quieting. Now induce physical immobility. Let yourself feel heavy, too relaxed to move. This is not sleep yet, but it is close to sleep. Your body is deeply relaxed, but your mind is still awake and capable of direction. In this state, ask yourself the question, how would I feel if my wish were realized right now? Let the feeling rise in response. Do not analyze it. Do not think about it. Simply feel it. Now, choose a single scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. For lottery money, this might be holding the winning ticket or the check. It might be telling someone you trust about what happened. It might be looking at your bank balance and seeing the numbers. It might be the feeling of debts paid and freedom gained. Choose whichever scene feels most real and natural to you. Enter the scene as the participant. Look out through your own eyes. Feel your body in the scene. Use all your senses. Hear what you would hear. Touch what you would touch. Make it as vivid as you can. Now replay this scene over and over, feeling its reality each time. Do not strain, do not force. Simply keep returning to the scene, feeling it, living in it. Let the feeling of naturalness grow with each repetition. Continue until you fall asleep within the scene. Let sleep take you while you are in the act. This is essential. Your last waking feeling must be the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you drift off in this state, you are sealing the impression into your subconscious mind. The work is done in the darkness of sleep, and it must emerge into the light of day. Do this every night without exception. Be faithful to the practice. Some nights it will feel powerful. Some nights it will feel like nothing is happening. It does not matter. Continue. Persistence is the key. The assumption must become habitual before it becomes natural, and only when natural will it externalize. The second practice is simpler and can be used when specific visualization feels overwhelming or forced. It is the practice of "Isn't it wonderful?" If you find that imagining specific details creates anxiety rather than peace, if you get lost in trying to picture the exact right scene, then use this approach instead. As you enter the drowsy state before sleep, do not try to construct a specific scene. Instead, simply capture the feeling that something wonderful is happening to you right now. Let that feeling fill your entire body. Say to yourself inwardly, "Isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me now." Repeat these words until they evoke the feeling they describe. Feel the delight, the pleasant surprise, the gratitude, the sense that something wonderful and unexpected has come to you. Do not specify what the wonderful thing is. Let the feeling be general and open. Simply feel wonderful fortune, wonderful abundance, wonderful blessing coming to you now. Fall asleep in this feeling. Let it be your blanket as you drift off. This feeling of wonder, of marvelous things unfolding, will impress itself upon your subconscious and attract to you circumstances that match it. You may be surprised at the form your good takes, but it will match the feeling. This practice is particularly useful when you are just beginning or when you feel resistance to specific desires. It opens the door to abundance without the mind getting in the way with doubts about whether this or that particular thing is possible. The third practice is the daily mental diet. This is something you do throughout your waking hours, not just before sleep. Your inner speech is creative all day long, not only at night. Every thought you think, every inner conversation you hold, is planting seeds that must eventually bear fruit. Most people let their inner speech run wild, filling it with worry, complaint, doubt, and fear. They are constantly planting seeds of lack and then wondering why lack appears in their lives. A mental diet means becoming conscious of your inner speech and directing it deliberately. Throughout the day, observe what you are saying to yourself. When you catch yourself thinking or saying, "I cannot afford that," stop, revise it. Say instead, "I can easily afford that." When you hear yourself thinking, "Money is so tight," stop, revise it. Say instead, "Money flows to me freely and easily." When you feel yourself worrying about bills or expenses, stop, revise it. Feel instead the satisfaction of all bills paid, all needs met, abundance overflowing. This is not denial of facts. You are not pretending that your current bank balance is different than it is. You are planting new seeds. The current bank balance is the harvest of past seeds. If you want a different harvest, you must plant different seeds. And the seeds are your inner speech. This practice requires vigilance. You have spent years, perhaps decades, habitually thinking thoughts of lack. Those habits will not disappear overnight. But every time you catch and revise a negative thought, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new. Over time, the new pattern becomes dominant, and when it does, your outer world changes. The fourth practice is revision. This is something you do each night before your main session of imagining the wish fulfilled. Revision means mentally rewriting events that have already happened to make them conform to your desire. It sounds strange, perhaps even dishonest. But remember, imagination creates reality. What it makes, it can unmake. What it creates, it can dissolve and recreate. At the end of each day, before you begin your main practice, briefly review the day. Was there any event that implied lack? Did you experience disappointment about money? Did something happen that reinforced the feeling of not having enough? Take that event and revise it in your imagination. Rewrite it as you wish it had happened. If you were denied something, imagine you received it. If you heard bad news, imagine you heard good news. If you felt the pinch of lack, imagine you felt the relief of abundance. Revision does not change the past in the outer world, but it changes the effect the past has on your consciousness. The event that reinforced lack is dissolved. In its place is an event that reinforces abundance. And since your consciousness is the only cause of your experience, changing your consciousness changes your future. This practice is particularly powerful for dissolving old patterns of limitation. Many people carry wounds from the past, memories of failure, experiences of lack that continue to influence their present. Through revision, you can heal these wounds. You can rewrite the story of your life to support the state you wish to occupy. Do this briefly each night. Do not spend hours rehashing every detail of the day. Simply catch the major events that contradicted your desire, revise them quickly, and then move on to your main practice of assuming the wish fulfilled. The combination of revision and assumption is extremely powerful. Let me share with you an additional story that illustrates the power of revision combined with assumption. A woman once came to me in great distress about a piece of property she owned. It was a trust deed on a house, and the family living there had let the property fall into terrible condition. The yard was overgrown, the house was neglected, payments were behind. The natural thing to do would have been to threaten legal action, to pressure the family, to evict them if necessary. But this woman understood the law. Instead of reacting to what she saw, she revised it. Every time she thought of that property, she imagined it as she wished it to be. She saw the house neat and well cared for. She saw the yard trimmed and beautiful. She felt appreciation for the family who showed such love for their home. She said to herself, "This is one trust deed we will never have to worry about." She saw it and felt it as she wanted it to be, not as it appeared. Within weeks, circumstances began to shift in ways she could not have planned. The woman of the house had an automobile accident and went to the hospital. Her husband disappeared. The children were cared for by neighbors. The woman doing the revision was tempted to visit the mother and offer help, but how could she, when her imaginal scene showed a happy, prosperous family? So she continued her revision without interference. Shortly after leaving the hospital, the woman reappeared with a new husband, a wedding certificate, and a completely transformed life. All payments came up to date. A new room was added to the house, increasing the property's value. The family was happy and thriving, the home was beautiful, and the trust deed was more secure than ever. Was this manipulation? Was this controlling others? No. The revision did not dictate how the solution would come. It did not force anyone to do anything. It simply changed the consciousness of the one doing the revision, and that change of consciousness selected a path of events from the infinite possibilities that led to the desired outcome. Everyone benefited. The woman got her secure investment, and the family got a new, better life. This is the power of revision. You do not need to know how things will work out. You do not need to plan the steps. You simply revise the situation in your imagination, feeling it as you wish it to be, and then let the subconscious mind, with its infinite wisdom, arrange the details. I want to also address something that may be troubling some of you. You may be wondering whether this is moral. Is it right to imagine yourself receiving money you have not earned through conventional labor? Is there something dishonest about assuming wealth when your bank account says otherwise? Let me put your mind at ease. You are not taking anything from anyone. The wealth you imagine into your life does not come by depriving another. The universe is not a pie with a fixed number of slices. Abundance is infinite. There is more than enough for everyone. When the woman received her lifetime income, it came from a friend who had become wealthy and wanted to share. Was she taking something from him? No. He gave from his abundance, and in giving, he received the joy of generosity. Both were blessed. When the man won $84,000 at the racetrack, was he stealing from others? The pool existed. The money was there. Someone was going to win it. His imagination selected him. Others who did not win were not harmed. They wagered what they chose to wager. The law operated through the man's assumption, and he received what he assumed. The idea that wealth must come through hard labor alone is a belief, not a law. Some people work hard all their lives and remain poor. Others work very little and live in great abundance. The difference is not in the amount of physical effort, but in the state of consciousness. If you believe that wealth must be earned through suffering, then your suffering will continue indefinitely. But if you accept that wealth can come through assumption, through the creative power of imagination, then you open yourself to channels of abundance you cannot even conceive right now. Scripture says, Prove me now herewith, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. God, which is your own imagination, invites you to test the law, assume the blessing, feel it as yours, and watch the windows of heaven open. There is another objection I want to address. Some of you are thinking, but I have tried this before and it did not work. I visualized, I affirmed, I did the techniques, and nothing happened. Why should I believe it will work this time? Let me tell you why those previous attempts did not produce results. First, you may have been thinking of the wish rather than from it. You saw mental pictures of what you wanted, but you were still here, wanting it, longing for it, hoping for it. That longing, that hoping, that wanting is a confession of lack, and lack is what you received. Second, the feeling may not have been natural. You went through the motions of the technique, but something inside you said, "This is impossible. This cannot happen to me. This is just wishful thinking." That inner reservation, that doubt, communicated itself to the subconscious and blocked the fulfillment. Third, you may not have persisted long enough. The assumption must become habitual before it becomes natural. Some people practice for 3 days, see no results, and give up. But the man who won $84,000 practiced for 3 weeks. The woman who received lifetime income practiced for 2 months. Persistence is not optional, it is essential. Fourth, you may have been nullifying your nightly work with your daily thinking. You assumed wealth as you fell asleep, but then you spent all day saying to yourself, "I cannot afford this, money is tight, I will never get ahead." Your daily inner speech contradicted your nightly assumption, and inner speech wins. The mental diet is as important as the nightly practice. So do not say, "I tried and it failed." Say instead, "I did not yet understand fully. Now I understand. Now I will apply the law correctly. Now I will persist until the feeling is natural. Now I will watch my inner speech by day as well as my assumptions by night. And now I will receive the fruits of my labor." Let me also speak about timing. People always want to know how long it will take. When will my desire manifest? How many nights must I practice before I see results? I cannot give you a specific number of days. No one can. The time it takes for an assumption to harden into fact depends entirely on the naturalness of the feeling. Some desires manifest overnight. Others take weeks or months. Some take longer still. But I can tell you this: if you persist without doubt, if you make the assumption habitual, if you let the feeling become natural, the manifestation must come. The law cannot fail. It is as certain as the law of gravity. What you assume and persist in must become fact. Do not measure your progress by what you see in the outer world. The outer world is the last place change appears. Change begins within, in consciousness, and works its way out through subtle threads you cannot trace. There may be a long period where nothing seems to be happening, where the outer world looks exactly the same as it did before you began. This is the period that defeats most people. They give up just before the harvest. But if you understand the law, you will not be discouraged by appearances. You will know that beneath the surface, in the realm of causation, everything is shifting. The bridge of incidents is being built. The circumstances are being arranged. And when the time is right, when the naturalness is complete, the outer world will suddenly change to reflect what has been true within you all along. The woman who received lifetime income did not see any evidence for 2 months. She practiced her feeling of "isn't it wonderful" with no outer sign that anything was changing. Then, in a single day, a chance meeting led to everything she needed and more. The outer world caught up with the inner in one dramatic moment. Trust the process, trust the law, do the work, feel the feeling, and let the timing take care of itself. Your only task is to assume and persist. The rest is not your business. I want to share one more story before we conclude. This story is about a young boy whose grandmother had attended my lectures. This boy desperately wanted a dog. He had wanted one for as long as he could remember. But his parents had many objections. They said a dog would be too much trouble. They said there was no room in their small apartment. They said the boy was too young to take responsibility for a pet. Every argument the parents gave, the boy could not refute, but he could not stop wanting. One day, his grandmother mentioned my teachings in conversation, and the boy overheard. He asked her about it, and she tried to explain that it was not really meant for children, that it was for adult problems. But the boy would not be discouraged. He said, "Now I know what to do. Every night, just as I am going to sleep, I am going to pretend that I have a dog and we are going for a walk." The grandmother told him, "No, that is not what the teaching meant. You cannot have a dog." But the boy did not listen. Every night, for weeks, as he lay in bed, this boy imagined a dog lying beside him. He felt the warmth of the dog against his body. He reached out in imagination and petted the dog, feeling its fur beneath his fingers. He imagined playing with the dog, taking it for walks, throwing a ball and watching it run. Now here is what happened. A newspaper in the city where this boy lived organized a special program for Kindness to Animals Week. All the school children were invited to write an essay on why they would like to own a dog. The boy entered the contest. Out of all the children in all the schools in the city, this boy won first prize. And the prize was a beautiful collie puppy. But here is the remarkable part. If the parents had been given money to buy a dog, they would have refused. If someone had simply given the boy a dog as a gift, they would have given it away or turned it down. But the way the dog came, through a city-wide contest, with newspaper stories and pictures, with the pride of achievement and the joy of victory, the parents' hearts were changed. They could not refuse. They allowed the boy to keep the dog. And one more detail. The grandmother told me later that of all the kinds of dogs in the world, there was one particular breed this boy had set his heart on. It was a collie. And a collie is exactly what he won. This child understood the law better than many adults. He did not analyze or doubt or wonder if it would work. He simply imagined what he wanted and fell asleep in the feeling of having it. And the law, which is no respecter of age or experience, fulfilled his assumption. If a child can do this, so can you. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these, because they approach it with simple faith, without the complications and reservations of the adult mind. Become like a child. Imagine simply, feel freely, and let the law work. Now, I want to bring all of this together for you. You have the principles, you have the practices. What remains is for you to apply them. Tonight, when you go to bed, do not let sleep take you in the old way. Do not drift off in worry, in lack, in whatever habitual state has been your companion at night. Instead, prepare yourself for the most important work of your day. Lie down, relax your body, feel yourself becoming heavy, drowsy, hovering on the edge of sleep. Then ask yourself, how would I feel if I had already received the wealth I desire? Let that feeling rise within you. See a scene that implies the wish fulfilled. Perhaps you are holding a check with numbers that would change your life. Perhaps you are depositing that check in your bank. Perhaps you are telling someone you love that you have won. Perhaps you are simply sitting in peace, knowing that all your financial concerns are behind you. Be in that scene. Feel it with all your senses. Let it become real to you. Let the feeling of naturalness grow. And then fall asleep in that state, feeling wealthy, feeling fortunate, feeling blessed. Do this tonight and every night. Be persistent, be faithful. The law does not fail. What you assume and persist in must harden into fact. And throughout your days, watch your inner speech. Catch the old thoughts of lack and revise them. Plant new seeds of abundance. Say to yourself, "Isn't it wonderful?" Feel wonderful fortune flowing to you. Let your entire consciousness become saturated with the feeling of wealth. The door stands open. I have given you the key. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is that key. Use it tonight. Now let me leave you with this affirmation, this truth to carry in your heart. I am that which I feel myself to be. What I assume and feel to be true must externalize in my world. I need not struggle for ways and means. I need not worry about the how. I need only occupy the end. I need only feel the wish fulfilled. The subconscious mind, which is infinitely wise and infinitely resourceful, will devise the means. My only task is to assume the state and persist in it until it feels natural. The door to lottery money, to unexpected windfalls, to financial freedom stands open before me. I walk through that door tonight. I walk through it by feeling. I walk through it by assuming the wealth is already mine. I walk through it by sleeping in the consciousness of abundance. I am wealthy. I am fortunate. I am blessed. Wonderful things are happening to me now, and because I feel these things to be true, they must become true in my outer world. Let this affirmation be yours. Let it saturate your consciousness. Let it be your last thought before sleep and your first thought upon waking, and watch the world conform. If this teaching has awakened something within you, if you recognize the truth of what I have shared, then I ask you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel. There is much more to share. The law of assumption has many applications, and I want to guide you through all of them. When you subscribe, you ensure that you will receive these teachings as they come. Second, press the like button. This simple act helps others who need this message to find it. There are many people out there struggling with lack, who have tried everything and found nothing that works, who are ready for the truth. Your like helps the truth reach them. Third, leave a comment below. Tell me what you will feel yourself to be tonight as you drift to sleep. What scene will you enter? What assumption will you make? I read these comments. Your journey interests me, for we are all expressions of the one imagination, and your triumph is my joy. Share your intentions with me, put them into words. There is power in declaration. When you write down what you intend to assume, you strengthen the assumption itself. The door is open. The feeling is the key. Go now and use it. Remember this always. You are not a beggar at the gate of heaven, hoping for scraps from the master's table. You are the heir to the kingdom. Everything that exists in the realm of possibility is yours to claim. The only thing that stands between you and your desire is your own state of consciousness. Change the state, and you change your life. I have given you the principles tonight. I have given you the practices. I have given you the stories of those who have walked this path before you and found it true. Now it is your turn. Do not let this teaching become merely interesting information that you nod at and forget. Do not file it away with all the other things you have heard and never applied. Tonight, this very night, put it to the test. Lie down in your bed, enter the drowsy state, and assume the feeling of wealth. Feel the money already in your hands. Feel the freedom already yours. Feel the joy of abundance flowing through your life. Do it tonight. Do it tomorrow night. Do it every night until it becomes as natural as breathing, and then watch the outer world conform to your inner assumption. The law does not discriminate. It works for the rich and the poor, the educated and the simple, the old and the young. It worked for the man who won $84,000. It worked for the woman who received lifetime income. It worked for the boy who got his collie. And it will work for you. You are not an exception. You are not somehow uniquely blocked from abundance. Whatever limitations you believe apply to you are beliefs, not facts. Change the belief, change the feeling, and the limitation dissolves. It was never real. It was only a state you occupied, and states can be left as easily as entered. I believe in your ability to apply what I have taught tonight. I believe in the law that governs all manifestation, and I believe that wonderful things are about to unfold in your life. Until we meet again, whether in imagination or in the flesh, I bid you good night and good fortune.